In this video, I'm gonna be playing with VLANs. VLAN literally stands for Virtual Local Area Network. It is a very old technology that is still widely used, and it is intended for logically grouping layer 2 switch ports on the local switch into different broadcast domains. Initially, on a switch, all ports will be assigned to VLAN 1, and we can verify this by doing config terminal, by doing show VLAN brief. Alright, so on this current switch, on Cisco CML, you can see that we have VLAN 1 here, and all these ports here are all assigned to VLAN 1. Now, how do we create VLANs? To create a VLAN on a Cisco switch, we have to head into configuration mode, which is config terminal, press enter, and then we do VLAN, and then you can add a number. In this case, I will say VLAN 2. Okay, I can press enter. Now, it's important to understand that until I jump out of the this mode here, config VLAN mode, the VLAN won't be created. So as I have just done VLAN 2, I have to jump back out so that the VLAN configuration takes place, because if I do from here and say do show VLAN brief, you see that we only have VLAN 1 in the configuration, even though we just said create VLAN 2. But if I jump back out by saying exit, okay, and then say do show VLAN brief, now we can see VLAN 2. Now, by default, any VLAN that you create in the way we just demonstrated here, they will be saved with generic names like VLAN 0002. We can change these generic names to a more helpful name by saying, let's say, if I go back to create VLAN 2 and then say name, for example, engineering, and then press enter, and then say exit. If I press up arrow and then say do show VLAN brief again, this time VLAN 2 will be associated with the name engineering. This is really helpful if you have a lot of VLANs. Now, that was one way of creating a VLAN. I can create a range of VLANs on the switch all at once by saying VLAN, let's say 3 through 4, no, through, let's say 5. That's a mistake. I shouldn't include spaces. So if I do that, so VLAN 3 through 5 and press enter, and then jump back out and say do show VLAN brief. I now have VLANs 1 through 5. apart from creating them in a whole range, I can also say, you know, create VLAN, let's say 6 through 8, and then 11 and 14, for example. So if I say VLAN 6 through 8, and then if I add a comma, I think that's the way it's done. So if I add a comma and then say 10 comma 11 and press enter. So what do you think I just did? I just created VLANs 6, 7, 8, and then 10 and 11. And I can verify this by saying exit and then do show VLAN brief. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 10 and 11. Great. Now if you look at my screen here, I've got switch 1 and switch 2. Now if these two switches are supposed to you know, have the same VLANs for some reason, it would be a hassle for me to do this on switch 1 and then jump on switch 2 and do the same thing there, right? Especially if you have a huge layer 2 fabric, say 100 switches, and you have to do what we've just done in every single one. There is a fantastic way of you know, creating VLANs on one switch and then replicating them automatically on every other switch, and this is done by using the VTP protocol. VTP stands for VLAN trunking protocol, and it does what I've just explained. To achieve this, first you have to pick one switch and configure it as the VTP server switch, and then every other switch can be configured as VTP client switches. The difference between these is that the VTP server will allow you to create, delete, or modify any VLANs, and then any VTP client switch that is connected to the server, the VTP server switch will automatically copy all those VLAN information to themselves. I can demonstrate this by so in this case I'm going to go back and say show VTP status. So what is happening here? So currently we are running VTP version 1. VTP domain is empty. That is also one requirement for VLAN information to replicate via VTP. All switches must be on the same domain. And then VTP operating mode is currently server, and then configuration revision is 4. I'm gonna try to explain what this means, but you can ignore this for now. So I just showed that currently I have around 11 VLANs on this switch, and also this switch is currently operating as VTP server. Now I'm going to configure the VTP domain on this switch as, let's say, Jose, my name. So I'm gonna do VTP mode is already server. I'm gonna use VTP version 2 and then say VTP domain Jose. Okay. I'm also going to add a password. VTP password, I'll say Cisco. Okay. And what else? If I go back and say show VTP status, so this is a VTP server switch. Also the VTP domain is Jose, and we are using VTP version 2. Now if I say show VLAN brief, again, these are all the VLANs that we currently have on this switch, and this is the VTP server switch. Now, how do we get all these VLANs to replicate from switch 1 to switch 2? So if I jump into switch 2 and say show VLAN brief, you'll see that I only have VLAN 1 here. And if I say show VTP status, what is happening here? It is using VTP version 1, no domain, and also this is running as a VTP operating mode server. Now I'm gonna say config t. I'm gonna say VTP mode client. Oh, sorry, VTP version 2. Okay, VTP mode client. Now, even though it is client already, you'll see that if I say show VTP status, or if I say do show VLAN brief, VLAN information hasn't replicated yet. And why? Because even though switch 2 is in client mode and switch 1 is in server mode, switch 2 is still on a different domain when comparing to switch 2. So if I say do show VTP status, you see that VTP domain name is still empty, right? So I'll have to say VTP domain Jose, right? Now, will that do? What do you think? I don't think so, because VLAN information on switch 2 are protected with a VTP password. If I do show VLAN brief, see, still only one VLAN, even though switch 2 is in client mode and the domain is the same as switch 1. So I'll have again to say VTP password Cisco. Press enter, and now maybe information will flow this time. So show VLAN brief, not yet. Show VTP status. what is happening here. VTP version 2, domain name Jose, operating mode client, and we have 5 VLANs, which is 1 really, because the other 4 are reserved VLANs. Configuration revision is 1. Now I think VTP protocol sends an update, I think every 5 minutes or something like that. I'll still try to do a show VLAN brief. We still only have one. Config T, VTP mode client. Okay, I know what is happening. One other requirement for VLAN information to flow between one switch and another via VTP, this link here must be configured as a trunk link, and to do that I'll have to go into interface gigabit 0/1, interface gigabit 0/1, and say switch port trunk encapsulation .1q, and then switch port mode trunk. Okay, and I have to do the same on switch 1. Conf T interface gigabit 0/1 switch port trunk encapsulation .1q switch port mode trunk. And I think that's about it. Just like that, if I go to switch 2 again and say show VLAN brief, show VLAN brief, VLAN, not VAN. Bam! We've got VLAN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11. So I think VTP is such an amazing technology. It saves a lot of time. Just imagine if we had 50 switches and you have to configure the same VLANs in every single switch, right? That can take a long time. So yeah, this is what I have for today. I really love playing with stuff like that. I hope this video is informative, and I thank you for watching.